Okay, so we see Cathedral Catholic in week one take down the number one team at the time, Mater Dei Catholic, at their home stadium, at Mater Dei's home stadium, and beat them convincingly, while Cathedral looked like they didn't even play their best game, and they beat them handedly. I thought that the 28-14 didn't do it justice to show what the actual flow of the game was like. If you look back at the film and watch the game from start to finish, you'd figure that Cathedral probably would have won by one or two more scores in that 28. They looked like the big men. They were dominating. They were talking trash. They were all over Mater Dei, and they whooped them. Look into week two. Rankings change. The two teams swap in rankings. Cathedral is the best team in the county. Who's their opponent going into week two? Corona Centennial Huskies. Perennial winners, perennial champions. Home game, home opener for the Cathedral Catholic Dons. It's an exciting game. Just came off of a pretty good game. They beat a very good Mater Dei team. And they thought that they didn't even play their best game. And they got some momentum going in. Didn't really have any major injuries. All you can do is just get better going into week two. Got a home opener. Everyone's excited. What happens? We get Cathedral Catholic losing by 35 at home. And the backups are being put in the game at the start of the second half. Interesting game. Corona Centennial came in to Cathedral's house down the I-15. Came in their house, whooped them, spanked them, and took their lunch money all in one sitting. It was really a lopsided game from the first drive. I believe Corona Centennial started off the game with the ball and they scored on their first drive. And from that point on, really, they took advantage of every single drive and scored. Centennial scored on over 80 to 90% of their drives. They punted once this whole game. So that means that they held the ball the whole game. Offensively, that means that they did whatever they want and Cathedral couldn't stop them. I believe that Cathedral's strong suit, looking at the game last year and just historically, is their defense. They have a really good defense. After the game, Cathedral's head coach Doyle said that he thought that they played a pretty good game defense and offensively they played bad. But that says a lot about Centennial's offense being potent if the other team's head coach that gives up 42 points says that their team schematically played a really good game and they get dominated that bad by Centennial's offense. That says a lot about how good of an offense Centennial has. 2 quarterback system, one's pocket passer, one's scrambler, great running back, great receivers. Interior offensive and defensive line, man for man, was much bigger and more dominant than Cathedral's offensive and defensive line, which says a lot knowing how good Cathedral's interior are and how good they looked last week against Mater Dei. So what I'm getting at when I'm explaining everything and what I'm doing, comparing Cathedral's performance last week to how they play today and taking into consideration the rankings on how good Cathedral and Mater Dei was for the section of San Diego, you get a team up here from the southern section. They're technically Inland Empire, but they're southern section Los Angeles. And they come in and they beat San Diego's best football team that bad. That's crazy. That goes to show you just how much better football there is than we have down here. It's not like a major thing, really. At the end of the day, like I roast San Diego at that, with how good the football is down here in comparison to other places and how we're underachievers, and I believe that. But at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal because there's no medal being won. There's nothing really solidifying anything. There's no award or medal being won. It's just bragging rights. But as someone that's native here, I would, with playing a competitive sport like football, I would want to get better and I'd want to compete with teams that are better than me in pursuit of being able to overthrow them one day and be able to compete and beat them in the sport. But we have our chances and we don't do it. A lot of these teams that come from different areas come down here and beat us, or we go up there and we lose. Lincoln losing to Alameda today is a close game, but at the end of the day, that's another L from a Southern Section Los Angeles team. Cathedral got destroyed. Their offense with their wing tee running downhill got stuffed. They played uncharacteristic football with the mistakes they made on special teams and the turnovers that they committed at very critical times, which led to Corona Centennial scores. Very, very unusual, very uncharacteristic habits and sequences that went on Cathedral's end, but they were all forced by Corona Centennial. It's not like, maybe Cathedral probably didn't have a good game. They might have been susceptible to mistakes, but normally they don't do that. But like I said, it wasn't more so Cathedral making mistakes. It was more so the fact that Centennial put them in situations where they would be backed up in a corner. And that in turn forced them to play out of rhythm, out of character, and they were playing out of desperation at some point, because if you're running a wing tee running offense like Cathedral does, and you're down a certain amount of points, you're playing catch up. And the clock is not your friend in those situations, in those circumstances. So the panic button was hit very early in the game by the second quarter. I believe Centennial was up 21-0, and they had no signs of slowing down. Very, very tough game for Cathedral. Shout outs and credits to Corona Centennial. They come down here and they show us what's real football. You come down to the city and play their best team and beat them by 40 at home in front of their people and leave everyone embarrassed. That's a statement. Corona could have easily put up 65. That's 65 points on Cathedral. It should have been a shutout because Cathedral scored a late pick six off of the third string quarterback on Centennial. Like, all these things I'm saying is like, and then it's not just one thing like, oh man, Corona Centennial had a really good quarterback and he exploited the defense. Oh, Corona had a really good defensive lineman or a linebacker and he was just stuffing the run. I'm saying all of these things that was in favor of Corona Centennial. 2-quarterback system, they did whatever they wanted. Running back had over 160 yards of offense and about 3 touchdowns. Defense stopped everything, only allowed probably 60 yards of passing offense for Cathedral and maybe 80 yards of rushing offense with the amount of attempts that they had. All of these stack up and all of these add up, and it goes to show the dominant performance. But this is the best team in San Diego getting worked. Should have had 65 put on them. And Corona Centennial put in their backups at halftime. Just think about the magnitude of how much a discrepancy and difference of talent and skill it is from that school to this school. It's crazy. I know Centennial is nationally ranked. They're a legit national powerhouse. It's not just because they're from Los Angeles or Inland Empire that they play that well. They're nationally recognized. But Cathedral scheduled them for a reason. You thought they had a chance. They didn't have a chance. Very, very compelling, riveting game. I like watching good football. I hold San Diego to a high standard. Cathedral will be fine. They're going to be just fine. They're going to make it to CIF this year, I believe. But, holy cow. Corona Centennial. Football outside of the county is some real stuff, man. And if you don't know about them, or if you don't know about football outside of the county or outside of our comfort zone or bubble in which we're used to watching, you need to ask somebody.